Hello, and sorry for all the delays. I was sick last week, which is why there were no videos, but don't worry, this week there will be multiple. I was thinking about creating a way to time travel, but that would have taken even more time, and I would have had to push this back even more. So, I'm not doing this. Here's this video. So this is meant to be a follow-up on the last video about redundancy systems in my radar recoil tech, just to see how it would fare in actual combat. Sadly, because of the sickness and previously stated multiple other personal projects, I've been unable to do combat. However, I have been able to successfully integrate the redundancy radar with redundancy system into a battleship type system, like just multi-part cram it together. I'm still working on the last part, and then I'm going to need to up armor the entire, like all three parts of it. But hopefully you should be able to see all of them laid out. The end goal is to have three parts. The central control part with all the radar systems, the top part which has shields for itself, as well as the main guns, whatever I choose to make those. And then the bottom part, which has all the movement and shielding and main armor and main protection. And that's that. So a little add-on onto the last video that I didn't quite get to show. I did mention how the versions in the video were not in fact the final versions, but rather simply just the pre-final versions, because there was one last modification that I wasn't able to get into the video because by the time I recorded the footage I already uploaded it. Not uploaded, whatever. So that small modification you can see here, those gray logic gates, there should be 5 clusters of them. They are in charge of making it so that if it gets one valid lock and another valid lock, instead of trying to add the signals together and spin out of control, it instead chooses one, whichever it got first, and simply holds that angle and ignores the other one. If you want to know more about how the radar system actually gets a lock and whatnot, and what are the condition statements for all that, go look at my previous video. Now for integration, because I needed to cram it all down together, and I did manage to get it in a very small space, it still does have issues because currently at the very front with the green 2x4s, they sometimes collide. They usually don't, and it's rare, but it can happen, especially when it's just starting, like the system is just starting. I've tried to fix that. I've made it even less likely, but that is something to be aware of. And this would cause bugs with where the gun should be aiming. But other than that, yeah, that's the central part done. At the backside, you could see the port that transfers the spinning information so that the shields could turn to rotate. The shields on the main body can turn to rotate in the same direction as the guns, as well as the W and A, the W, S, A, and D inputs and outputs. Then on the top, you can see fire, like the thing which controls the firing, like whether to fire or not to fire, and then the firing rotation on top as well. That's for the turret layer. That's for like the deck of the ship. Hopefully, now that I've said all that, hopefully now you should be seeing some sped up footage of the assembly process. I use just a small general purpose drone that can, well, do anything. It's general purpose. The drone is not the special part here. The assembly is a little bit finicky, but it works well enough. It has decent speed and pretty fast rotation in the water. So something to talk about is that the radar still has drift. So when there are targets, when there are no targets, guns just kind of turn randomly by themselves and they just drift around. Not much I can do against that, again, other than just like turning a lot because when it turns, they press up against the edges of the amount that they can rotate, like the little bars that are stopping them from rotating too far, and that realigns all of them. And every time they get realigned, well, they get realigned because a lock is chosen when two guns are looking in a similar direction. If they drift for too long, there's a chance that it might start getting false lock-ons. And also, there's an issue with when accelerating and decelerating, it gets false lock-ons because the radars, they drift around and they turn from getting swung around. I could potentially fix this by increasing the gyro strength on them, but I am also afraid that that would decrease the effectiveness of them and how responsive they would be. Something I just need to test, I guess. That's going to be part of combat tuning, which will happen once I finish the top layer. Speaking of all that, now you should hopefully see the entire thing assembled. As you could see, it moves. It does all its things. It moves, it can turn to target things, it can do all this stuff. Shields and guns are synced to be in the same direction. Not much to say. It is what it is. And yeah, I'm not going to be uploading any of these creations because, again, they aren't ready. I don't want to give an undone creation to the public and then have people say, oh, it works terribly. No doubt it works terribly. It's a prototype. What did you expect? So yeah, that's this video. Questions in the comments. Goodbye.